Hi, I'm Marlon Peterson, Director of Community Relations for the Fortune Society, and welcome to Both Sides of the Bars, a discussion-driven show that examines the criminal justice system from various perspectives, including those who have been most impacted by the system. We discuss critical issues about the current system, how it works, its intersection with social justice, and we highlight the efforts that are being made to improve the lives of everyone that is affected by it. We ask you, the viewer, to spread the word about Both Sides of the Bars and share your comments with us on Twitter at the Fortune Society. Today we have an interesting show. So we have Dr. Kirk Anthony James, who's the new Senior Director of Public Policy at the Fortune Society. He's also finished his doctorate degree at UPenn, doing work around the invisible epidemic in social work. And he's the founder of an organization called Evolve, as well as Gold Ring Reentry Institute? Initiative, right, GRI. Yes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. We
also got Chi Ali. So if a lot of you hip-hop heads don't remember Chi Ali from back in the 90s, such songs as Asian Number or Roadrunner.
Right.
Welcome to Both Sides of the Bars.
Thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Also, Chi Ali, you spent a significant amount of time in prison, 12 years to be exact.
Correct.
But also you participated in a great college program that we'll also speak about during the show. And we want to use this opportunity here as we talk about two people who are formerly incarcerated. Kirk, yourself spending 9 years in prison, and you finished an associate's degree in prison. The sort of connections between education while incarcerated, also after incarceration, but also connections with hip hop. And seeing how any role at all does hip-hop have in this whole conversation around college and prisons and reentry and incarceration. So Kirk, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you did at UPenn particularly?
Absolutely. So I think even before speaking about the work that I did at UPenn, one important thing to note is that I also got an associate's degree in prison.
Okay.
And that associate's degree was given through the consortium of Niagara Frontier. So it was not a funded program. It was a program where the director actually went out to raise money for this program because he knew how important education was. So even before I went to Penn, my foundation was laid because of the opportunity I had to receive a college education while in prison. So when I went to Penn, one of the things that was really surprising to me was that one of the most, if not the greatest social justice issue in my lifetime, and I feel in many people's lifetime, that of mass incarceration, that of the over-incarceration of people of color in the United States, was not being discussed. So I created the Gold Ring Reentry Initiative with a few other colleagues. And the program essentially did three things actually. It helped people to understand through academia just how pervasive this thing of incarceration is, how it really impacts people on so many different levels, right? It also prepared social workers, students, MSW students, to go into the prisons and work with men and women 3 months pre-release and 3 months post-release to help them to have a better opportunity to re-enter in their communities. And the third thing the program did was it kind of created a platform for people that are involved in working around issues of mass incarceration, or people who have no idea what the prison system is and what mass incarceration is, to really come together and have some discussions.
And now you're at the Fortune Society doing public policy work.
I am.
And what's that like? Does your day look like?
All over the place, right? So I think what's important to me to be at the Fortune Society doing this work is that to really inform this conversation a lot richer, right? So oftentimes we speak about people that go to prison and we make this solely about behavior. So while behavior is very important, it's important for us to have conversations around many of the systemic things that actually push people to prison, right? So a great conversation we're going to have today is about education. And a lot of research shows that if people in communities, especially young men of color and young women of color, don't have access to education, the chances of them going to prison are significantly greater, right? And if people leaving prison don't have access to higher education, their chances, or education in general, their chances of coming out and succeeding are naturally higher, because in a market economy, people favor people with tangible job skills, right, which are usually validated through education.
Now, Chi Ali, you participated in a college program in Sing Sing that was, I think it was part of a documentary called The University of Sing Sing that was aired in April of 2000, earlier this year.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Basically, the University of Sing Sing, it was based on the college program at Sing Sing. It's through Mercy College. unfortunate part, we only have one major behavioral science, but you can do so many things that fall under that umbrella. But basically, the director, Sean Pika, he got a bunch of the students together, and Ms. Skousen, she was one of the professors. Her son actually shot the documentary, and they basically asked us if we would like to be a part of it, and we were like, sure. And it basically just went around, and they filmed us during some of the classes, doing some of our hobbies, just got a lot of images of us doing what we do inside prison, because so many people have the perspective that it's just I guess homosexuality and gangs and, you know, a bunch of BS in jail, but it's other things too. Like, and that's one thing that I commend Sing Sing for. Sing Sing is a prison that has both sides of the fence. I mean, if you're trying to be a knucklehead, it's there, but if you're trying to do something productive, that's there too. And the beauty of the college program is that everyone who's in that program basically signs up to be in it. It's not mandated. So because of that, it's a little more serious, and the people that's involved in it are really trying to do well and make a change in their life for when they get released. Because, I mean, people don't realize this, but 97% of the people in prison will be returning to society. And like he said, if we're not educated, the chance of success goes down, and the chance of going back probably goes up at a significantly higher rate.
You know, it's interesting because I think we are kind of speaking about a shift in the narrative of what people think about prison, right? You said what people think about a whole bunch of nonsense that's happening in there, but there's also opportunity to educate yourself. And, you know, before the taping, we were saying, like, between the three of us, you served 9 years, you served 12 years, I served 10 years. We all were able to earn associate's degrees in prison, which is interesting, right?
And that's for me, that was like kind of what kind of turned my life around in a positive direction.
It's probably also a testament to why three of us are sitting at this table,
talking about
right?
the table.
Absolutely.
People most informed by it. But now, a couple months ago, as both of you know, Governor Cuomo had proposed to have the state fund college program in 10 prisons. We could say it should be more, but he started with 10 prisons. But after he did that, or at least made the proposition, there was a huge amount of political pushback that he got, particularly from folks in northern parts of New York State. Particularly one senator said to me on a radio show, Hot 97, that we were both on, that he opened up his conversation by saying, you know, why should we fund education for gangbangers, convicts, and felons? And that was his opening comment. And unfortunately, it's probably not just him that thinks that way. So what do you say to folks that think that, well, yeah, it's good and well that you have gotten education, you're doing good now, but you did something to go to prison. We shouldn't pay for you to go to get a free education. In fact, I'm out here and I have problems with, I can't afford a college, so why should you go to school for free?
I get where they're coming from. I understand a lot of them feel like, oh, I got to pay for my kids to go to prison. These people did things to warrant them to be in prison. Why should we fund them? But at the end of the day is, if you believe in correction and rehabilitation, how can you rehabilitate someone with just putting them amongst a bunch of individuals who's similar to them, who've committed crimes, and expect them to change if you don't teach them how to change? I mean, and I would think people would be for it, because at the end of the day, if individuals leaving prison don't have an education, it's a great chance they might be grabbing your purse or doing something to go back to prison that's going to affect you and your community. I think a lot of the people who have those views aren't in our communities, so they don't see it like that, because they don't see us as much. They don't see blacks and Hispanics as much, so it doesn't affect them directly. But when you look at my mother and father, they're working people who lived in the Bronx and now Harlem, so they're in the hood. And although they not doing nothing wrong, but the people, they every day, if they walk into the train or parking their car, going to the supermarket, they're amongst us. They're amongst young black teens. So if those people aren't educated, they're going to be taking that on my mother and father. So I would think, if you want to really better your community and better New York City or state, because, you know, I mean, I'm from the city, but, you know, you have the whole state, I would think that that would be something you should push for, because how can I do better if I don't know no better?
I mean, I think you said it brilliantly, right? I think most people, I think it's finding a common denominator, right? Most people are concerned about public safety. So if we put it in the public safety lens, in saying that 75% of people go back to prison in 3 years, right? That number is drastically reduced when people have access to higher education. The people that go back to prison, they're usually committing a crime because they don't feel that they have any other choice. The people that don't go back to prison, they utilize the power of education to create choices. So like if you care about public safety, if you care about, you know, creating safer communities, safer streets for our children, for our wives, for our mothers, then we will do what works. So it's not what I think or what somebody else believes, it's about doing what works, and education works.
And also just to cut in, the options. I mean, the education, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it gives you options. Like he said, if you can't get a job or can't get a job that can pay you to survive, pay your rent, whatever you have to do to survive, everyday survival, it's a great chance you're going to go back to what you know best. And it's funny because the University of Sing Sing, the documentary, it was first titled 0%, because at the time when they filmed it, no one who had graduated from the program and went home came back to prison, and at the time it was probably 800 or 900 some odd students.
Wow, that's powerful.
Since then, I think 1 or 2 guys may have, I think, came back. So they changed. They didn't call it. They changed the title from 0% to the University of Sing Sing. But however, you're talking about under 5 individuals out of probably close to 1,500 who graduated and came back. And I think if the proof ain't in the pudding, I mean,
what we're talking about is a formula, like an equation that works, like 1 + 1 = 2. Simple. I think that's an equation for life.
So
but it's what you just said. Most of the people, they are misinformed, right? So it's like most of the people, it's propaganda. It's provocative to people to hear that we're paying for ex-cons and parolees to go to school, right?
The language.
But yeah, but at the end of the day, it's finding that common denominator again. And if people care about public safety, then let's talk about what works, right? Let's not talk about my opinion or your opinion or your opinion. Let's talk about what works. And education is one of the things that we know that truly works.
And they're paying anyway. I mean, you paying for us to sit in the yard and do nothing. So why not do something not only to better us, but to better your community? I mean, you're going to have to pay taxes, and it's going to go wherever it goes regardless. So, I mean, I would think do something positive. But, you know, you're always going to have those people with those views.
Yeah, I think it's so important, as you mentioned, Kirk, is the misinformation about it, and that they're going to pay anyway. I think there's a lot of misinformation about how this works out. According to his proposition, it was only $5,000 per person it would cost, which is completely different to the tens of thousands it costs to incarcerate one person.
$160,000 a year in New York.
Per year. Yeah. So $5,000 invested in education, only 10 prisons, right? And that's not the entire criminal justice, not the entire prison system in New York State. And I think a lot of the misinformation is also in our own community. So the person that said that to me was a state senator from, I think, Putnam County. But also, I also heard some folks in our own communities when he laid out that plan on his agenda of funding prison in college education in prisons. Folks from communities from Brooklyn, where I'm from, and different inner city communities were also like, well, I don't want them paying money for I can't afford to go to college. Like, how do we even do the work of informing our own people within these communities who are impacted by incarceration? How do we sort of inform them about the benefits of this sort of thing?
Well, I think a lot of the people who have that view from our communities, they feel like, we may come home, I guess, maybe thinking we better than, or a lot of people may be resentful that they can't afford and don't have those opportunities. But my thing is this, like I said, you're paying anyway. All the therapeutic programs in jail, from ART to ASAT, and
everybody know what ART and ASAT is. What's that? ART, we all did it.
Yeah, anger regression training, and ASAT is alcohol substance abuse. But these are mandatory programs in prison if you want to get home at your early release date that you have to do. And in my opinion, and I've facilitated both those programs. And I think they're great programs, or they could be great programs, but most of the people don't care. It's more about pushing the numbers with those programs, but those programs are mandated and they're funded. And in my opinion, they don't work because 95% of the individuals in those programs don't want to be there. It's just they gotta go so they don't go to the box or get keep locked. And they want to go home as soon as possible. So they gotta go, but if you go and then your attitude is, oh, I got to sit through this, well, I got to be here, then you already set up that you can't get nothing from it before you even step into the classroom. So I don't think those work, whereas with the college programs, they're voluntary programs. So the people who want to be there, and I think 90% of the people in those programs, probably 100%, if you told them, well, you got to take out a loan and upon release, you got to start paying this loan back as if you were a student in the street going to college, I know I would have did it. And because we looking at it like we not doing nothing anyway, you more concerned about getting out and doing better than paying off a loan. So you gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Options is a beautiful thing. I think a lot of it has to do with one of the reasons why folks, before they go incarcerated for whatever reasons, is just that higher education doesn't seem like it's accessible, doesn't seem like a reality in the communities they come from for a myriad of reasons. And I think when you're introduced to it, it's like, oh wow, this world is open up to me. Hey, I will pay for it if I can get a loan for it. I didn't even know I can take out a loan for this sort of thing. And I think once the information also has to come to our folks, even before they obviously incarcerated, that this is an option, but definitely while they're inside. I know that, particularly, kind of shifting in terms of like the conversation around like social activism, right? So I know, Kirk, you have a huge history in doing social activism, and I know you're going to tell us a little bit about some work that you've been doing you would like to get involved with. Particularly as somebody who is, a hip hop artist, who still is currently a hip hop artist, not just in the past that we're talking about.
Right.
Somebody who's like, better than ever even. I'm kind of interested in what role at all does hip hop play in this conversation around mass incarceration, education in colleges? Does it have a role? Is it something that, people within the hip hop industry should be talking about, speaking about, advocating for, pushing money towards?
I mean, I feel definitely. I mean, I think hip-hop is a part of America right now. I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry. Like we were discussing before the show, once you're on that TV screen, kids look up to you. So we have to, as artists, we definitely have to be more responsible in what we're putting out there and what we say, because a lot of these kids emulate what they hear on the records, what they hear on the radio, what they see on the videos. And that's probably one of the reasons so many kids is getting locked up, because it's not too much positivity that you're hearing through the airwaves. And like you said, it's not that it's not there, it's just those artists aren't pushed. And I mean, I guess you can't blame a label for pushing the music that makes them the most money, but at some point we got to step up and kind of force these labels to push certain artists and individuals who's kicking more positive stuff, because if it's nothing but negativity, if kids don't have no other option but to listen to this, then that's what they're gonna run to. That's all they know. So a lot of it goes back to options. But I think hip hop, as a hip hop artist, I feel like I have a responsibility, and I think we all do. And a lot of artists and athletes that say, "Oh, well, I'm not a role model, I'm this, I'm that," but you are, whether you like it or not. You got to take responsibility. Once you're on that screen, you are a role model.
I think to add even further, you're right on point, and I think to add even further, the type of hip-hop that's being promoted is a hip-hop that in many ways affirms a culture of incarceration. So everyone is tough because they've been to prison. Like everyone is cool because they sell drugs. So it's like we're actually affirming a culture that we know has been very destructive to people of color in the United States. So, the type of hip-hop that's being pushed, because hip-hop is, as you said, is part of the fabric of America, which then means that it's part of how people are socialized, right? It's how people learn. So if you grow up in a community where you're getting hip-hop that tells you it's okay to be a drug dealer, it's okay to be a stick-up kid, it's okay to, whatever will put you in jail, then we're kind of creating that culture, right? Whereas we're not promoting the hip-hop that tells you that it's empowering to find out who you are, it's empowering to read, it's empowering to access education, because it promotes greater opportunities, as we've discussed. So I think that is something that's also very scary. We need to start to hold labels accountable, right, for
Absolutely.
the type of music that's being promoted. We can't just say, okay, like, look at this hip-hop, who's playing it? Like, who's playing it? Hip-hop isn't just gangster rap, right? Hip-hop is like, hip-hop runs the spectrum. Hip-hop is so rich, but yet we're only seeing one type of hip-hop being promoted in America.
Well, so when you came out with your single, I think you're about 15, I was a little bit younger.
It was a different culture.
Early 90s, but I mean, along with the music that you were making, there was still folks who was making music that would say promote, violence or incarceration that would affirm that sort of stereotype of many black and brown communities. So my question then is, we're in our 30s now. We're saying this, making this sort of analysis about hip hop, but
not all hip hop,
but certain types of hip hop. Okay, certain types of hip hop. Thanks for clarifying. But a 14, 15, 16-year-old now, she or he may listen to us and say, well, you're only saying that now because you're older,
and
whereas, but you're out of touch, but this is the music. I'm speaking about where I'm from, what's happening around me right now. Like, how do we sort of get that same message into somebody who's in the streets
I think
right
it's
now,
good to affirm. I think sometimes what we do is, like, we don't affirm people's situations, right? So a lot of maybe music that is being spoken about mainstream is really speaking to situations, right? It's really speaking to people living in poverty, people that feel like, you know what, the only choice they have is to sell drugs, or the only choice I have is to rob somebody. So the first thing we need to do is, like, affirm, never invalidate, you know, like, what people who are actually going through these experiences are going through. But at the same time, we need to create alternatives, right? We need to be able to go to our communities and say, and using our examples, right? That oftentimes doesn't happen, to say, even to brothers who come out of prison, say, yeah, you know, the reason I've been home 2 years, the reason I've been home 9 years, the reason I've been home 5 years or whatever, is because of education. You know, education has allowed me opportunities. Where so many brothers that go back to prison, so many sisters that go back to prison, the first thing that you look and see is that, you know what, they didn't have any education. So I think that we, you know, like, even talking about accountability and responsibility, it starts with us. You know, like, are we having those conversations? Are we, you know, using our stories to empower other people in terms of their choices and decisions?
And along with that, I think a lot of the artists, they glorify the violence, the drugs, but they don't glorify what happens once you're in prison, once you're behind the wall. And a lot of that is because most of them haven't been there. Yeah. Because I think if you were there, I don't think you would glorify it at all, because that's something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And you got to tell that side. At least give the listener both sides of the spectrum, and then let them make their choice. But you don't know what it is to be fed or in a box and eat dinner at 4 in the afternoon, and by 11 o'clock you are starving, literally, like, yo, I just want breakfast to come.
The truth is, right, so many dudes don't feel like man enough, for lack of better words, right, but don't feel comfortable enough.
We're talking about issue of hypermasculinity.
Exactly, because we know that the hip-hop that is promoted, thank you for holding me down on that, right, the hip-hop that's promoted is so hyper-masculine that, you know, for a dude to come home and say, hey, listen, man, like, yo, it was rough, man. The days I didn't get visits, or, you know, the days nobody was
when
picking
you
up
was dressed for that visit,
you know,
and then never that call and come.
You done borrowed clothes from everybody.
I don't like this nostalgia y'all giving me right now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the reality of it. And that's why I don't really like movies and TV shows which try to show prison life, because you can't get that in an hour or 3 hours or a half hour. It cannot be portrayed correctly in that short period of time. And it's the things that you just can't explain that a camera can't show you. That missing your family, that daughter's birthday, that, you know, just the little things in life that it can't explain. And to go back to the music, I think back in our days, even with the gangster rap, the NWAs of the world, it was, even when they spoke the negativity, it was a lot more militant. So it was still some positive behind it, because the militants was kind of a stand. It was like they were resorting to the violence because they were angry. They were angry. Where now it's just being glorified. Like, it's about being the biggest drug dealer in the world, and the people glorifying it. You not doing that. Like, I mean, I don't point out any rappers, but if you getting $200,000 or $100,000 for a show, what are you thinking about some cocaine for? You know what I mean? But the average listener can't see that far, but that's what you telling them to do, and then they run and do it, and they getting jammed up for the rest of their life, and they probably never was going to see what you making in one performance.
Yeah, absolutely. But then even what you said in the 90s, there was that almost alternative too, right? So people had a choice whether I was going to listen to NWA, or I was going to listen to Black Sheep, or I was going to listen to Chia Ali, or I was going to listen to Tribe Called Quest. Or Public Enemy. You know, it was still a much richer information that was out there. Whereas now, you know, I was in Oakland 2 weeks ago, and one of the things, you know, these kids were mobilizing around is taking back hip hop. You know, because so much of hip hop now is just it just promotes
twerking.
Well, no, to sort of like complicate the conversation a little bit. I mean, I think, you know, when we speak about what hip hop promotes, we think about a machine that's promoting
Absolutely.
or is encouraging and putting money towards something that's obviously destructive to communities of color.
Where are we going with this?
I'm not, I think it's important, but this, you know, this is sort of like evidentiary of the importance of, not just saying that we couldn't have this conversation prior to our incarceration, but I think the opportunity to have been exposed to higher education allows us to sort of critically think about our own situation, not only be able to write a paper or think about some sort of math equation or what have you, but sort of kind of like really think about our situation, why it is the way it is, and sort of like looking at, well, there's some obviously some behavioral issues that we got to deal with, but these behavioral issues are also influenced by other things. And I think that's the value of sort of like education.
I think a lot of it too is maturity. A lot of us grow up in prison. I know we always saying how we got locked up at young ages, so we kind of grew up into manhood while in prison. And it's just, I think the positive thing about school is it's about the process. A lot of the things you study in school, you may never use again, but it's just the process of getting through it. And this generation is the, you know, what we want right now, the instant gratification generation. So we don't know how to go through the process. And I think that's another reason why we turn to the drugs or be a stick-up kid, because I could get what I want right now versus putting in that work. And I mean, for me, that's what school taught me. It taught me just to go through the process of a lot of things. And so many classes that I took that I thought, oh, this is BS, I'm never gonna use this. But just in general conversations, now that I'm free with different individuals, you'll hear something be like, oh, yeah, I studied that, yeah, we hit on Judaism or whatever it is that I never would have thought about, that I learned. And just going through that process, I think opened me up to so many more opportunities and enlightened me a lot.
I want you to talk about a little bit about the event that you went to on May 5th in Albany.
Right. It was basically, it was a lot of different groups that went up there basically to Albany. It was a little rally. We all spoke to different legislators. But the group I was with, it was about the halt of solitary confinement. And it's basically was saying, like, we know that once you're in prison, you go to solitary confinement if you commit a crime or, you know, hurt somebody or break a rule. And the statistics show that it's like less than 10% of the people in solitary confinement are in there for violence. You have a prison rule book this big, which you can basically go to the box, solitary confinement, for damn near anything. And the majority of people in there are in there for petty breakage of the rules. And it's not a normal environment. To be in a cell by yourself for long periods of time is not normal, and it's not healthy for your mental or your physical. So we basically saying, what our movement with the halt to solitary confinement is basically, we're not trying to eliminate the box, because we know it has to be there, but to limit the amount of time that can be given, but to eliminate it for people with mental health issues, women that's pregnant, I think at least 8 months pregnant. But I think once they're pregnant, they shouldn't go there, because that's definitely going to affect the baby. People with drug issues. So, I mean, I think it was a beautiful cause. Dr. Cornel West was there. He was the keynote speaker. And for me, it was like my first time up there rallying and doing something positive. And I felt good just to be, I felt like I was giving back to my brothers, my fellow comrades that's still behind the wall. And it was a good thing. And I think that's necessary. But the numbers is what's going to make bills like that get passed. If we don't support it, then it's not going to happen.
Thanks for that. I think, you know, it's good to hear the work that you're doing as an activist, as a hip-hop artist, but also as an activist, somebody who obviously let that experience to all of us, but particularly, you know, I think you've been out, how long now? How long have you been home?
A little over a year.
A little over a year.
Yeah.
Somebody who's right in the midst of the work of sort of like fixing the problems of the system that he currently just left.
I mean, and I'm trying, a lot of, like, when I was up there, like I was telling you, a lot of the legislators weren't there, so we were talking to their aides and assistants. So at one point, I'm like, man, it's just a bunch of BS. Or, you know, how many people do they hear a day with different movements and different agendas? Like, I was thinking, like, is it possible to really get through? Am I wasting my time? But at the end of the day, you got to start somewhere. And I think it's imperative that we keep that attitude and don't get discouraged. Whether even if the bill doesn't get passed, the next one may, and it may not get passed in our lifetime, but it may be our kids' or grandkids' lifetime. So I think it's important that we stay focused and don't get discouraged.
And I think around the solitary confinement, I know you sort of chimed in and said trauma that's associated with solitary confinement, but incarceration in general. And just briefly, Kirk, it's kind of like I know you have an emphasis about you addressing the trauma that's associated with various issues.
Yeah. Well, I think just to help people to understand how decisions are made oftentimes, right? So there's a big push right now to increase the age of juvenile culpability, meaning that, you know, right now we say someone could be a juvenile up to 18. But because of neuroscience research, which shows that the brain isn't fully developed till maybe 24, we're starting to say, okay, maybe we need to increase this age where someone can be tried as a juvenile, right? So now it's 18, maybe it goes to 24. When
you're trying to,
when trauma, when you're speeding me up, when trauma is in the mix, trauma then further impedes our ability to think, right? So, and then trauma is anything that impacts our coping mechanisms, right? So it could be external resources or external resources. It could be something as small as, you know, losing a pet, which could affect you the rest of your life.
And sorry to cut you off a little bit, but I have to. But I think the work that you're going to be doing at the David Rothenberg Center for Public Policy is thankfully be absorbed around the issues of trauma. If folks want to be able to get in contact with you, Chiali's really, I know you're on Twitter and whatnot.
Chiali BX on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything. Chiali BX, B as in boy, X like X-ray.
And you are?
Kirk Anthony James, the Fortune Society.
Everyone, thanks again for being a part of another episode of Both Sides of the Bars, where we always critically look at the issues that impact both people from all sides of the criminal justice system. We'd like for you to always forward this show, share the show, because this show has very pertinent issues that affect so many people within our communities. You can watch the show on YouTube, which will be posted at the Fortune Society on YouTube. And once again, thank you for participating in another episode of Both Sides of the Bars.